Are today's real estate headlines stalling your dreams of homeownership? Or perhaps you're sitting on your largest asset and you're wondering if now's the time to cash in. Well, here's what the news isn't telling you. By understanding just 10 key issues, you can have a major advantage in today's real estate market. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to break down how political changes, interest rates, and even artificial intelligence are reshaping the real estate climate in Gainesville in 2025. More importantly, I'll show you some specific strategies that my clients are using right now to successfully navigate today's market. Will the new administration change housing policies? How will tax law changes affect homeowners? These are just some of many questions that I'm getting almost daily from my current customers. Here's the reality. While Washington debates policies, Gainesville operates within its own dynamics. Just last month, a family that I was working with was feeling extremely anxious and nervous with all the noise coming from the media about real estate. That is, until we looked at the data of their numbers and the area that they were looking. Despite national uncertainty, when we took a look at the specific neighborhood they were looking for, what we discovered is that in that hyper-local market, the homes had appreciated an average of 4.2% annually for the past decade, regardless of who was in control in Washington. Why? Because Gainesville's stability is anchored in the university system, the health sector, and the up-and-coming tech presence that we have here. For buyers, this means focusing on your own personal timeline rather than worrying about political cycles. For sellers, emphasizing the stability of our Alachua County market, especially when compared to some more volatile areas, can be a very strategic selling point when it comes to your property. Interest rates have been dominating the conversation for years, and it's with good reason. A Gainesville family today buying a house for $350,000 is going to pay on average about $550 more per month than they would have just 3 years ago for the exact same property. This creates what I call the golden handcuff effect for sellers. People with those coveted 2 and 3% interest rates are very hesitant to give that up for today's higher rates. I recently worked with a couple who were really quite surprised when their lender approved them for about $75,000 less than they were expecting due to the current rates. But instead of giving up, we got creative and we looked at some different financing options. A local credit union that was offering a 2-1 buy-down program that was able to reduce their interest rate by 2% for that first year, an adjustable rate mortgage with conversion options. And we even found a property that had a seller that was willing to increase the purchase price just a little bit in exchange for offering a rate buy down. Not all of these options are going to be perfect for every single buyer, but the point is there are options, so make sure that you're exploring those before you let a headline determine your future. They ultimately went with the buy down program, which saved them about $450 per month for those first couple of years, which gave them the cushion to get into the house they wanted, establish their careers a little bit more, increase their income, and hopefully see a decrease in interest rates. Now, I don't have time to go into the full explanation of it, but for those of you who get mad at me, start typing in the comments, let me just say, those options are not perfect for everybody. Yes, I know rates may not decrease over the next couple of years, but that's a conversation that I had with my buyers so they could make an informed decision. It may not work for you, or it might, but don't let a headline determine your housing future. The point is that there are options, so be sure to explore them. Moving on, this third option we're going to talk about is loan maturities and debt management. While this may make your eyes glaze over, or you might just think this is a commercial real estate issue, it could actually affect you. Nearly $1.8 trillion in commercial real estate loans are maturing by 2026, forcing property owners to refinance at much higher rates. In Gainesville, we're already starting to feel the squeeze. 3 apartment complexes actually raised their rates 8.2% after refinancing last quarter, and that's compared to the city average of 3.5% increases. And this ripple effect could start to affect that rental housing battle. For many of my first-time buyer clients, what they're discovering is that even despite today's higher interest rates, their mortgage on a home that they own might actually be lower every month than the rising rent costs, When you factor in the stability of a mortgage staying relatively the same and the tax benefits you get, you might actually come out ahead in home ownership. And even though the interest rates are high, remember, when you rent, your interest rate is 100%. And if you're considering selling your property and then renting temporarily, perhaps due to relocation or building a new house, make sure you factor in these increases when you're coming up with your timeline and your budget. As we come into issue number 4, we wouldn't be talking about today's market if we didn't talk about some of the geopolitical turmoil and the market volatility. So let's dive in. Global tensions might seem far and away, but they can actually directly affect the cost of your daily goods. For example, supply chain disruptions continue to affect the cost of building new homes or remodeling existing ones, with the price of lumber shooting up 25% over just the last quarter. Not too long ago, I was with some buyers at a new construction subdivision, and they were shocked to hear that the builder had to change their cabinet specifications 3 different times due to the unavailability of what they originally ordered. This delay often means that houses take longer to build, and the average that we're seeing right now is it's taking about 7.3 months to build, whereas just a few years ago, that average was just at 5.1. For buyers who are considering new construction, you need to build in extra cushion. Whether you're determining when you're going to terminate your lease and give notice, or if you're selling a house to move into your new build, make sure there's some contingencies in there for flexibility, because it's likely that you're going to need it. And for you sellers, your move-in ready home just went up in value. In fact, data even suggests that updated homes in the Gainesville area are selling for 12 to 15% more than similar homes that need a lot of work. So if your home's move-in ready and turnkey, you can win based on your fixer-upper neighbors or the buyers who can't wait for new construction timelines. As we come into number 5, insurance costs are a huge issue, particularly in Florida right now. Insurance almost is starting to feel like a 4-letter word. Florida's property insurance rates have increased on average by 42% in just the last 2 years. Some people have even seen their insurance premiums double. In fact, in the last 12 to 24 months, I've actually completely changed how I order the transaction with a buyer. Insurance used to be something that was kind of taken care of at the end, one of the last steps before closing. Well, now I actually put it towards the front. When a buyer does inspections, right when they get their report and all that documentation, I'm having them shop for insurance right away. Because things like 16-year-old water heaters that are perfectly functioning are often still getting flagged by insurance companies. So if a buyer can catch those red flags early, we have a lot more room and leverage to negotiate and also make sure that closing doesn't get delayed. If a premium comes back that's absolutely outrageous, it also gives the buyer some time to decide what they're willing to move forward on. The important thing for you as buyers is to make sure of a couple of things. 1, when you do your inspections, make sure you talk to your inspector about getting a 4-point and getting wind mitigation. A wind mitigation can actually save you money on your insurance. Now, when you get that full report, under no circumstance are you to send your entire inspection to insurance. Talk to your agent and you send them the 4-point and the wind mitigation only. For sellers, here's what you can be doing. You can provide the documentation of your roof age, any hurricane features, updated plumbing or electrical. These things can all dramatically decrease the cost of a buyer's insurance, which ultimately makes your home infinitely more marketable. And what would a real estate conversation be if we didn't touch on the affordability challenges that have cropped up? It's not just the day-to-day cost of eggs, but housing has seen a significant change. A $300,000 home back in 2020 with 20% down would have brought you a monthly mortgage of around $1,100 per month. Today, that same house is probably appreciated and sells for $325,000. But with today's interest rates, especially when you factor in taxes and insurance, your monthly mortgage is closer to $1,900 per month. And this shift is creating both challenges and opportunities. I am always the proponent that you can find a way. Buyers are getting creative. There are so many grants and programs and down payment assistance that you can qualify for. In fact, did you know that Alachua County has a program where you can get up to $10,000 towards your down payment and closing costs if you qualify? I have several buyers that are making the dream of homeownership a reality because we're utilizing these programs. Because if somebody's going to give away money, they might as well give it to you. And for you sellers, there are two things that are going to be wildly important to the success of you moving your property: the price and the presentation. The house better look phenomenal and be in great shape, and it better be priced right to reflect the interest rates, the affordability, the geopolitical turmoil that's happening right now. When houses are priced appropriately, they're selling on average in less than 30 days. But in our area of Alachua County, when houses sit, you're looking at on-market time of 68 days or more. There's even some properties that have hit the 200 or 300 mark. So price it right and present it well so that you can sell it fast. AI is now embedded in our lives. And I know that John Connor and Sarah Connor are so mad at us right now, but I think we're beyond the point of no return. Artificial intelligence is no longer just this ethereal buzzword of up and coming things. It's actually affecting how we run our day-to-day lives and how houses are being sold. Predictive analytics are getting better and better by the day, and now they're able to forecast which neighborhoods are up and coming, which neighborhoods might be seeing trouble in the future, and consumers are tapping into this. Buyers, at your fingertips, you've got AI-powered search tools that can help you analyze commute patterns, up and coming subdivisions and future developments, school districts. There's so much that you can learn before you even leave your home to find out where you're going to live next. For sellers, AI is revolutionizing how properties can be marketed. We now have at our fingertips the ability to see what buyers are looking for. You can virtually stage rooms at a fraction of the cost. You can beef up your marketing with the help of AI-powered tools. AI is not going away. I just hope we use it wisely. As we're getting towards the end of our list, item 8 talks about sustainability initiatives. Climate concerns are reshaping buyer preferences in real time. In fact, on average, homes with energy efficient features in Gainesville are selling 17 days faster and on average 6.8% more than comparable homes without these types of features. In our area, we have some of the highest utility bills in the state. If you ask any local how they feel about GRU, you may get some colorful responses. And because of that, so many homeowners are looking to offset the cost of those utility bills with things like solar, better insulation, and other options that can tamp down those monthly bills. When a house has solar, it's important to ask a few questions. Are the solar panels owned? Are they leased? And is it paid off? If it's not paid off, is it transferable? And what does that look like? These are questions that can help you make an educated decision when buying a home. And if you're selling a home, make sure you gather up all that information ahead of time so you can let buyers know what they're in for. What can be tricky is if the solar panels are leased and they're not yet paid off, more often than not it's transferable, but now your buyer has to qualify not only for their loan, but also for that monthly payment on solar. For a buyer, solar panels can actually be a fantastic option, especially if you're in those areas with the higher utility bills. What a lot of people tend to miss is this. For example, if you're buying a home with solar panels and they're not paid off yet and they can be transferred, they may say to you, hey, our monthly payment for our solar is $300 a month. And you may think, well, can they just take the panels off so I don't have to pay that? Stands to reason, but what you need to think of it as is that $300 payment more than likely is your utility bill. And at $300, you're locked in. So when rates inevitably go up and your neighbor without solar is then paying $325, $360, $400, so on and so on, your rate is locked in. Definitely need to dive into that more. In fact, I've even got videos that do just that. But remember, solar is helpful in so many ways. So if you've got it on a property you're selling, make sure you have all the information. And if you're buying, don't discount a home just because it has solar. In fact, it could save you a boatload of money over the lifetime of your ownership. In a post-pandemic world, the hybrid work option has certainly altered the way many of us use our homes. What we know is that properties that have a dedicated workspace or some sort of bonus or flex space that could be used for work tend to sell 22% faster in the Gainesville area than similar properties without those bonuses. During the pandemic, there was this large prediction that the ability to work remotely was going to drive people away from cities, and that actually hasn't proven to be totally true. Instead, what we are seeing is what you could call the 30-minute radius effect. Homeowners want a house that's big enough to cater to their needs, whether they're working from home or they just don't want to be on top of their neighbors. But at the same time, they also don't want to be more than 30 minutes away from any social activities, schools, church, or any place they're wanting to go on the regular. So if you're a buyer who's shopping the market and you have a work from home situation, or even if you don't, the only thing that's constant in life is change. So if you can be on the lookout for something that has the ability to flex with your life, whether that's a workout room, an extra home office, even guest accommodations, that's going to allow you to stay in your home for longer and to build that value up year after year. And sellers, if you've got those bonus spaces, make sure you're staging them. Help paint the picture for your incoming buyers to see what exactly the space in your home could be used for, because that's going to help it sell faster and for more money. The final issue, and perhaps the most psychological, is the price gap, meaning it's what sellers are expecting to sell their home for and what buyers are willing to buy it for. That's the gap. And that gap has become more exacerbated in the last few years because of the market changes in interest rates. And this disconnect between buyers and sellers is often what leads to houses taking longer to sell, transactions being a little bit bumpy, and sometimes at worst, deals falling apart completely. The data is going to tell this story. In Gainesville, what we're seeing on average is homes are selling for about 96.8% of their list price, and typically that's after about 38 plus days on the market. Properties that sell within the first week of being listed usually get about 99.5% of their list price. But here's the rub. The list price is everything. If you're listed too high and the buyers are not willing to bridge that gap, your property is going to sit longer and you're going to have to either do price reductions or take a lower offer, meaning that list price was never going to be attained anyway. A house that sells faster in a market like this is generally priced well, because no matter the market, if the price is right, the property will sell. And this price gap between buyers and sellers is an issue for both sides. Sellers on average spend an additional $3,500 in carrying costs for every single month that their home is on the market. For buyers, sometimes waiting for the perfect deal can backfire as rates fluctuate or markets change. For example, a quarter-point fluctuation in interest rates can actually end up costing you more over the life of a loan than trying to negotiate an additional $5,000 off the purchase price. So it's really important as a buyer to look at those long-term numbers, because while a certain negotiation might seem like the most important thing right now, if you're getting a loan and you're amortizing that loan over 30 years, that is the number you want to pay attention to, because that's going to affect your future wealth. And we see it all the time with buyers and with sellers. You have a seller who gets an offer that's $5,000 to $10,000 under asking price towards the beginning of their listing, and they reject it, only to reduce the price and then be chasing after buyers who are probably going to end up offering them less. It is often true that your first offer is usually the strongest. And for buyers, remember, it works the same for you. Maybe a seller's not going to come down to that exact purchase price you were wanting, but if the rate's where you like it and the conditions are there, it may be best to swoop on it in the event that rates go up and then you're paying more for 30 years. This is a complicated issue, and it's not one that I can solve in a 15-minute video. But what I do want to plant the seed in your brain is that there are options, and headlines don't mean everything. You have to dig into your personal finances, your personal timeline and situation, because maybe it's the right time to buy or sell, or maybe it's not. But I promise you that media headlines are only painting part of the picture. So what does this mean for you right now if you're in Gainesville and you're thinking about buying or selling? For buyers, preparation is key. Secure your financing before you even look at a single house. This is the #1 key. The second thing is ask your agent who they recommend for insurance and have a conversation with those agents to determine who you feel comfortable moving forward with and to get some education from them on what you can expect to pay when it comes to insuring a property. And be ready to move quickly on a well-priced home. Right now, the market is shifting to a healthy market. The seller's market has packed up their stuff and they're driving off into the sunset. So enjoy the fact that you have a little bit more breathing room. But I'll tell you this, if interest rates suddenly drop, that seller's market is going to make a U-turn and head right back. For you sellers out there, your preparation is important, but it all comes to the property. Presentation is so important. Fix the issues, do the staging, paint the room, deep clean the oven. When I work with a seller who's never sold before, I'd always tell them that your work is up front. When you're buying a house, a lot of the work happens once you find the house, inspections and loan approval and appraisals. But when you're selling a house, your work is up front to get the property ready. So do all the things your agent is telling you to do, because I promise you it's going to make all the difference. And for that presentation, make sure your agent is using professional photography, doing the right marketing, getting your property exposed to as many eyeballs as possible to get as many feet through your front door. Right now, the sellers that I'm working with who are seeing the most bang for their buck are the ones who put money into curb appeal, kitchens and bathrooms, the right kind of staging with a professional, and any kind of upgrades to the property. If you take care of your asset is going to take care of you. And that's okay. Maybe you have some deferred maintenance, but don't let it slide because buyers won't either. And remember, the media and real estate focuses on the nation as a whole, but every single market is different. And our Gainesville market, luckily, does have some insulation from a lot of the other issues that some areas are facing. Gainesville's unique combination of educational institutions, healthcare employment, and quality of life continues to drive demand despite the challenges we've discussed. So whether you're a buyer who's new to the market and is just trying to figure out what the heck it all means, or you're somebody who wants to sell a current property to move into something else that better fits your needs, I'm hoping that these 10 issues and the insight that I've provided gives you a little bit more confidence moving forward. It's not as scary as it seems, and there's always a way to work out a solution if you've got the right team with you. And is there a specific issue of the 10 that I talked about that you want me to dive deeper into? I'd love to know. Drop it in the comments below because I'm happy to do more videos on things that you're interested in. In a volatile market, it can feel very scary. And perhaps it's piqued your interest the fact that Gainesville is somewhat insulated from that volatility. If 2 major universities or 3 major hospitals or the general quality of life that Gainesville has to offer has piqued your interest, you probably want to be able to scope out what it's actually like here in Gainesville. Well, I've done a highlight of the downtown area, and let me tell you, you can scope out amazing restaurants, live shows, music, so much culture, all in one downtown area. I'm Lindsey Johnson, your resource for all things real estate. See you next time.